While you're doing that, Ken, if you could read the announcement.
The Malden Planning Board will hold a public hearing in the Herbert L. Jackson Council Chamber, Malden City Hall, 215 Pleasant Street, Malden, Mass. At 7 p.m. on Wednesday, February 8th, 2023, on the petition of Ronie Teixeira of Ronie Construction, Inc., permit application number CMID 050516-2022, seeking a special permit under Title 12, Chapter 28, Section 010D1 of the Code of the City of Malden, to alter, structurally change, extend, and change use of a pre-existing non-conforming property in the Residence A zoning district, namely to construct a dormer and addition to the third floor, construct a 3-story porch deck, renovate and convert the existing building from medical laboratory use to a 3-family dwelling at the property known as and numbered 410 Ferry Street, Malden, Mass., and by City Assessor's Parcel ID number 084-403-301.
Thank you, Ken. And the petitioner, if you could have you submit your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Ronie Teixeira, and the address is 410 Ferry Street, Malden.
That's where you live?
No,
Your residential address, please.
my address is 72 McKinley Street, Revere, Mass. 02151.
Okay, thank you. Okay, if you could describe what it is that you're looking to do and describe what the project is, how long it might take, what you're planning to do as far as renovations, how long it'll take, that type of thing.
Well, I already did the demo. The renovation, it should take roughly 3 to 4 months to complete, And, like you guys already saw, I want to turn it into a 3-family. So, like I said, in probably 3 to 4 months, I can get that done.
Okay, so right now it's a medical laboratory?
Well, right now it's non-conforming because their license expired, so it's not conforming now.
Right, but how long has it been vacant?
I don't know that answer.
How long have you owned the property?
Since November.
So you bought it in November of 22?
Yeah, I bought it in November last year.
Okay, because right now what it is it's zoned for a medical laboratory. Before that, it was a single-family dwelling with medical laboratory. And before that, it was a single family. And so you're looking to make it a 3-family now.
Yes.
Okay, are you aware of how big the lot is?
Yes, I think I have all that information on my...
On the plan, it's like
on the
4,800 square feet.
Yeah.
And for a 3-family, you need like 12,000. Right. Are you aware of that?
No.
Oh, for a 3-family, you need 18,750 square feet, and you're proposing 4,796.
Okay.
So there's a significant deficiency in the size of the lot, which means that even for a single, where the zoning requires 7,500 square feet. So even for just one dwelling there, you're still well below the requirements.
Okay, and what could be done with that, and in terms of what can be done with the property then? I mean, what can I apply for at this point?
Well, what you're doing now is you're requesting a special permit.
Yeah.
So that we consider the proposal that you're making, and that we will evaluate your proposal based on what's submitted and what the zoning is and what the merits of the case might be. But I'm just, where you don't have legal representation, I just want to make sure you understand that the requirements were 18,750 square feet, and you're only proposing 7,000, less than 7,800, 4,800,
Okay.
okay? So you mentioned that you had started the demo already?
Yeah, I already demoed the whole inside.
Did you have a building permit for that?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so you have a building permit for the demo. You're
Yes.
just now seeking to convert that
Yes,
to a three-family.
yeah.
Okay, how much parking do you plan to provide? Tell us about the units. I mean, are they gonna be condos? Are they gonna be apartments?
Yeah, it's 3 apartment, 2 bedrooms each, and I'm planning for 8 parking spots.
Okay. 2 bedrooms each. Okay, so the zoning requirement would be 6 parking spots because of the zoning is 1 parking spot per bedroom provided,
Okay.
okay? How much open space are you providing? We didn't receive any open space on a 4,800 square foot lot with 8 parking spots and a sizable building. I'm curious what open space you're planning to
I
provide.
think it's gonna be 1,100, if I'm not wrong, for the open space.
And do you have a plan for that?
Yes, I think I sent it to Michelle yesterday, because, I mean, they only told me that I have to do that like a couple days ago.
Okay, that should have been part of the initial list of requirements when you pulled the permit. So before we even scheduled the hearing, that should have been on the list of things that should have been submitted. But,
Well, I submitted the first plot plan, and then I didn't know about that part. And then she sent me an email, like, I think it was last Friday. So I had to call up my, surveyor so he can redo it, the plans, and he only finished it yesterday.
right, but I don't think he ever sent it over because we haven't received it yet.
I sent it yesterday. I don't know if she got it or not, because I sent it last night.
Well, I spoke with her earlier today. She hadn't
Oh,
received it yet.
Probably went to like a spam or something, because I definitely did send it.
So you sent the open space plan
Yeah.
on the 7th. Okay. Okay, so in looking at the plan, what type of landscaping are you planning to do? I don't
Grass
see any
and
on
some-
the plot plan.
Yeah, we're gonna do grass and some small trees.
Okay, did you provide a plan for that also?
No, not yet.
Plan for landscaping. Okay. Where do you plan on putting snow storage? If it's apartments, you're gonna have to plow the parking lot. Is that over on the corner, on the upper
Yeah,
corner?
on the right corner.
That's
No,
where you plan to do
That's
it?
where I'm planning, so on the right corner.
Okay. Okay, does anyone else have any questions? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see Henry that you had weighed in. Henry Susi?
No, I'm sorry.
Oh, that was from before? Okay. Does anyone have any questions for the petitioner? Ken Antonucci.
Yeah, Mr. Chair and Petitioner. Okay, am I on? All right, I just wanted to make sure that the petitioner understands the process, like what happens if we hear this and it doesn't get passed or whatever, and what options you might have. I don't know if you understand how this, just want to make sure you understand how this is going to work. Tonight, we're reviewing what you actually put in front of us. You kind of alluded to, you know, what can I do with this property? That's, I think the chair already mentioned, it's really not, the only thing we can really look at tonight is what you got in front of us. So if it gets approved or denied, that's pretty much where we stand tonight. I just want to make sure you understand that.
Okay.
Okay.
I do.
Okay, any other questions for the petitioner? Risa Gray.
I think I'm gonna rent a smaller dumpster, so I can put it right at that corner, the right corner there on the parking. I'm actually gonna take one of those parking spots to put that small dumpster there. The one on the right, if you look at, facing the back of the parking lot,
So you're going to use a parking spot for dumpster?
yes,
So you're only providing 7 parking spots?
7, yes, yes.
Do you know which parking spot you're going to take?
The one in the right where I was gonna put the snow too, so that will be everything on that corner there, so it will be easy to
So
work.
4 or 5? Do you know if it's spot 4 or 5 that's labeled on your plan?
I don't have it on me, so it's, if you're looking to the back of the parking lot to the right,
There's 4 along the right.
yeah,
So the last one?
the last one, yes,
Thank you.
the last one on the right.
Okay, Risa, any other questions?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have any other questions? No. Is there anything else you'd like to add, sir? Is there anything else you'd like to add to the
No, that's it.
presentation?
That's all, thank you.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we'll entertain anyone that would like to speak in favor of this petition. Anyone that would like to speak in favor? No one in favor? There's nothing to read in favor. So seeing and hearing none, I declare that part of the hearing closed. Is there anyone that would like to speak in opposition to this petition? Anyone to speak in opposition? Seeing no one in opposition and having nothing to read in opposition, I declare that part of the hearing closed. Everyone has a staff report. It's also been distributed to the petitioner, but everyone has a staff report. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the staff report? Okay, what we'll do is, where Michelle isn't here this evening, I'll ask if anyone has any questions on it, and otherwise I will go through by category, rather than reading it word for word. So if Risa, you have a question?
Do you have a copy of it? I have it on my phone, very small, but I don't have a copy of the report in my folder.
You should have one in the package.
I did not see one in here. Is that, oh, you have two. Here it is,
Oh, okay.
in the folder over here.
Okay, we'll
Thank
give you a moment to look at it, but the summary is, this lot is 4,796 square feet. The requirement for a three-family is 18,750. We haven't seen any usable open space provided, though the petitioner mentioned that he believes that he's going to provide 1,100 square feet. The density is significant. There's a significant deficiency in the density with the proposal. The parking plan submitted had 8. We've heard this evening that one of them is going to be used to house a dumpster, or that's what the plan is, but they still have the 6 required for the proposed 6 bedrooms, the 2 bedrooms per unit for each of the 3 units. This has already gone before the Historical Commission with regard to demolition and alteration, and it's been approved by the Historical Commission. The last thing I'll mention is that this is Residence A, which the 3-family use is prohibited in this district, but may be allowed by special permit, which is why they're before us this evening. The history of the location, as I mentioned, about 35, it's been, for the last 35 years, it's been a medical laboratory facility that got approved in 1988. Prior to that, it was a single family on the 2nd floor and medical lab. If my memory serves me correct, I believe they did some sort of dental laboratory. Some dental laboratory work that was being done there. And prior to that, it was a single family home. But it's almost 200 years old. It's like 180 years old. Let's see, Risha, did you have more questions, or was that from before?
That was from before. Thank you.
Very good. Eric Henry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In all due respect to the petitioner, it's kind of difficult when petitioners come before us and they're not represented by legal counsel or may not know all of the procedural norms that may be imparted. But given that, I think this kind of speaks to the state of what Malden is in right now with regards to its zoning laws and zoning regulations. At one time, if I understood the chair correctly, at one time, this 4,800 square foot lot supported a single family home. In my time on the planning board, this to support a single family home, the square footage used to be 6,000 square feet. Now that is 7,500 square feet for a single family home, and a 3-family home is 18,750 square feet. As our pendulum swings back toward inclusionary zoning and the need to house Malden's growing population, I think this is a prime example of what we should, and our city leaders should look at toward addressing the square footage and the zoning of these properties. Where are we going to find an 18,000 square 150-foot lot in Malden to build a 3-family? I do recommend that this is special permit, if this does not go in your favor, I do believe you have the option to go to the Board of Appeal. I have seen the Board of Appeal grant things that were disapproved by this body. So this is not your last recourse, but I do recommend that you apprise yourself of all your options. Thank you, and with that, I'll yield.
Okay, Eric McCush.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If it was to put a dumpster on the property, would that have to be screened like a commercial property would?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? We have a clarification. The dumpster cannot be within 200 feet of the property line. So what that means, it's going to make it even more difficult to place it on the lot as it's laid out because it's so small, because it needs to be 200 feet in from the property line.
What about each tenants take care of their own trash?
That's a possibility, but you're going to have to store the trash anyways. You know, with the recycling or in the bags. So, here, why don't you come back up, sir? Come back up.
Well, I can get trash barrels and put it on the back of the house, but there is plenty of space there.
Okay, well, the
Right.
city has a recycling program.
Huh.
20 feet, not 200, 20 feet,
Oh, okay, 20 feet.
I'm sorry.
Okay. So it needs to be 20 feet in, which I think will still make it difficult. Looking at the lot, I'm not sure where you would come in 20 feet and still be able to put a screened dumpster in.
Okay.
But that would be a consideration that you'd need to, consider if this does move forward.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
thanks.
And, is tabling, okay, we'll see in a second. Ken Antonucci.
Just, again, I hate to do this procedural question. Aside from, going through and taking a vote, are there any other options available at this time to the petitioner, whether it's tabling or withdrawing or anything? I just have a feeling that he doesn't fully understand this process.
Yes, the option, what we could do is we would have to consider, I don't know that tabling's the answer, though we could table it, because I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done on this to tidy up the plans and make sure the city receives all the plans and the most current plans. So that could be an option to table, give the petitioner time to do that. I don't know if that addresses the fact that a three-family on a 4,800 square foot lot, I don't know if it addresses that. And I hear Eric Henry's comments. I don't know that I necessarily agree with them. At one point in time, a single family was 5,000 square feet, and then they've gradually increased over the last 35, 40 years that I've been here. And a lot of that has to do with the density in the city. So I don't know if we're swinging back, as you mentioned it, the pendulum's going to swing back so that we're going to lower requirements. I'm not sure. That would remain to be seen. But that's certainly something that I think a more prudent plan of attack would be to allow it to withdraw without prejudice, if the petitioner would consider that. The advantage to that is if it's allowed to withdraw without prejudice, he can maybe get some legal representation and then tidy up the package that needs to be submitted to the city, and then he could reapply. If we table it, we would table it and he could do the same thing. But the advantage of withdrawing without prejudice is that he can take longer to get everything together and then come back before us. If we vote on it and deny it, we can't hear it for 2 years.
Unless it's substantially changed.
Unless the petition substantially changes, like he makes it a two-family or a single as opposed to a three-family. So that is, voting on it and denying it would be the most severe option without him significantly changing the plan. And I can't tell him, if you do this, everything will be fine. It's up to him to consider it and then weigh the options and then come back to the city. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it answers my question. I don't know if the petitioner
Okay.
is,
Well, let's see if anyone else has
Willing.
any other questions. Does anyone else have any other questions? Eric Henry.
Yes, thank you again, Chair. I just want to follow up on Ken's point. I'm understanding the difference between withdrawal and tabling and voting. We just need to kind of get an understanding from the petitioner as to if he understands, and before we proceed, I would think.
Okay. Is there anyone else who wants to comment before I go back to the petitioner? Eric McCush.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If he does withdraw and then comes back with another three-family proposal, it's still going to be a massive overbuild on this property. And I don't think us voting it down today and then him coming back with a significant change, i.e. three-family to two-family, that's not going to make a difference, except for maybe saving him time. If he comes back in 3 months with another three-family proposal, and then that gets voted down, he's back to square one. Whereas if it gets voted down tonight, then he has a chance to significantly alter the plan to something that might be more amenable to the city.
That is true, yes. No, good point.
It's-
Okay, anyone else have any questions or comments? Okay, so if the petition would come back to the podium? Do you understand, sir, that what we're discussing here, it doesn't look good, optimistic about this passing because of the overuse of the property? So your choices are, we vote on it anyways, and if it gets voted down, you would need to significantly change the petition from a three-family or to a lesser use before you would be allowed to come back within 2 years. Okay?
Okay.
That's one option. That's if we voted on it and denied it. The other option is you could withdraw it without request to have it withdrawn without prejudice, which would allow you the time to go back and refine the plans and come up with something that might be more suitable to a 4,800 square foot lot.
Okay.
Do you
still go
have a preference?
I'll go for voting. Still.
So you want to move forward with it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I will.
Well, thank you. Just want to make sure you understood it. Typically, most people come in with with legal representation, so they're able to negotiate some of this, negotiate these waters, navigate these waters before we get to this point. So, okay, just want to make sure that you understand that.
I do.
Okay, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
At this point, the recommendation of the staff is to deny the petition for a special permit because the proposal is an overuse of the property, as indicated by the increased and new gross deficiencies of lot area, open space, and density. The planning report and recommendation is included as part of the petition and hearing record. So that is the recommendation from the planning staff, to deny the petition for a special permit. Is there a motion? Eric McCush.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will make a recommendation to deny the special permit.
Okay, so Eric McCush has made a recommendation to deny the request for special permit. Is there a second? Ken Antonucci.
I'll second that.
Ken Antonucci is seconding it. So the vote is to, no, it doesn't. Okay, thank you. So a yes vote on this is to deny the petition. Okay, so everyone understands that. Are you all set, Ken? Mm-hmm. Ken Antonucci,
Yes.
Tawadej Gabriselassie,
Yes.
Risa Gray,
Yes.
Eric Henry,
No.
Patrick Hayes,
Yes.
Henry Susi,
Yes.
Ronnie Verma,
Yes.
and myself, Eric McCush, I'm sorry, I skipped over Eric, I'm sorry, Eric.
It's good. Yes.
Eric, and for me, Chuck Iovan, I vote yes also. So the petition has been denied at a vote of 8-1. Okay, well, thank you very much. Okay. The next petition we'll hear, give us a moment, and the next petition that we will hear will be 76 Granville Ave. 8-1. Yeah. Yeah, just right. Yeah, no, thank you. Okay, let the record reflect that Diane Chuhar is in attendance. She will be voting on 76 Granville Ave, and Ronnie Verma will not be voting on 76 Granville Ave. Yeah, if you want to. Or you can ask Diane to do it and you can read the notice. And we can just pass them down, okay? Just pass them down. Ken, why don't you start reading the notice? Thanks.
Can you save me one of each and pass those down? Oh, no, actually. Diane's reading the notice, right?
Oh, yeah, Diane, I'm sorry, Diane, if you could read the notice? And is this a one-page thing, or? No.
The Malden Planning Board will hold a public hearing in the Herbert L. Jackson Council Chamber, Malden City Council, 215 Pleasant Street, Malden, Mass., at 7 p.m. on Wednesday, February 8, 2023, on the petition of James Motzkin, trustee of the Saratoga Trust, permit application number CMID 051372-2022, seeking a special permit under Title 12, Section 28, Chapter 28, Section 010D1 of the Code of the City of Malden, to reconstruct, extend, and structurally change a pre-existing non-conforming property and use in the Residence A zoning district, namely to demolish the existing dwelling and construct a new building for continued use as a four-family dwelling, at a proposed development site to be comprised of 2 existing parcels to be combined, the property known as and numbered 76 Granville Ave, Malden, Mass., and by the city's assessor's parcel ID number 104712208, and the property known as Granville Place, no number, Malden, Mass., and by city's assessor's parcel ID number 104712206.
Thank you, Diane. Is the petitioner present?
Yes, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I'll just take a moment and sign in.
Thank you very much.
My name is Thomas Callahan, with offices at 1 Center Street here in Malden. I'm here representing the Saratoga Trust and the Malden Realty Trust, both entities owned by the Motzkin family. With me here tonight is Jimmy Motzkin and also Jonathan Stone from O'Sullivan Architects and Tony Capacetti from Hayes Engineering. And both the engineer and the architect will follow my introduction and provide more detail in their respective roles. We're here tonight seeking a special permit for a pre-existing non-conforming structure. We are going to demolish most of it. We hope to save a bit of it, but we intend to reconstruct it in its same form, same footprint, and also provide an addition at the rear. As mentioned in the legal ad, further we plan on merging the existing lot, which is in the front, which is 5,500 square feet, and then adding the lot at the rear, which is 5,000 square feet, to have a new lot of 10,500 square feet. The building was built over 100 years ago, so it's in need of drastic renovation, and that's what we intend to do. Presently, it has been used for 4 residential units. The 4 residential units consist of 3 apartments with 7 bedrooms, and then 1 studio apartment, which I add up to 8 bedrooms, since the studio is used as a bedroom, as well as a kitchen and a living room, but it's still a bedroom. That's the current use of the property, 4 units, 8 bedrooms. Our proposal consists of 4 units with 9 bedrooms. The units are larger, of course, because 100 years ago when this building was built, as we all know, those structures back in those days, the rooms are rather small. We're building this out with the open concept, with the kitchen, dining room, living room, all open. We do provide 9 parking spaces in conformance with zoning. 4 are enclosed and 5 are outside. So what we've done is we've stayed with the original number of units, again 4 units, and we've added 1 additional bedroom to the 9 bedrooms. Our proposed plan is for the first floor to have 1 2-bedroom and 1 3-bedroom, which also goes on to the second floor. The second and third floors also consist of 2 units, each a 2-bedroom, but our architect, Jonathan Stone, will provide more detail for you and also go over for you the current, the existing floor plan, if that's something you'd like to hear from. So, a number of months ago, we canvassed the area with flyers and conducted a neighborhood meeting. We had 15 to 20 attendees at that meeting. We presented our original plan, which was rather ambitious. We presented that to the neighborhood again back some time ago. The original plan was to construct 2 separate buildings and with 6 units and 12 bedrooms. Well, we've rethought that plan, and we want to be more consistent with the neighborhood, as well as not being more detrimental to the neighborhood, so that we have kept our proposal in line with the current use of the 4 units. And again, we're adding 1 bedroom, but we're keeping the 4 units with an additional 1 bedroom. So with that, if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer, or I can turn it over to our architect.
I have a few questions, and I don't know, you may want to defer to your team. But the size of the property will be doubling.
That's correct.
Right, because you're adding that back lot that's currently doesn't have any buildings on it. It's a bunch of trees, and it appears to be a lot of the side of the hill is eroding down. So even though you kept the same 4 units, you've significantly increased it. And you're providing 10,500 square feet in the proposal, and the requirements for this is the same as our last petition, is 18,750 for a four-family.
That's correct.
Right, so you're doubling the size, and it's roughly half of what the requirement is from that. Just
I haven't done the math. It would be something, yeah, slightly.
slightly less, 44%.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. So, can you go over again? I don't understand how you're gonna maintain the same footprint and have it sprawl.
And have it, what, please?
How is it going to sprawl into the next lot and maintain the same footprint?
Well, perhaps, John, we want to bring up the proposed plan, and we'll just explain it by way of the plan.
Okay.
Is that helpful? Can bring the board over.
Yeah, so the intent is on Jonathan Stone.
Yes, if you name and address for the record and make sure you sign in, please.
Jonathan Stone, O'Sullivan Architects out of Reading, Massachusetts. Good evening. Yeah. Yes, yes. So the proposal is to rebuild the existing structure and extend it to the back. So the existing structure will house 3 units, and then we'll build an addition extension to the back, which will have the other unit. So if you're looking at this plan here, the brown section is actually the existing footprint. The
Right.
blue piece is an extension.
Okay, so the new piece is almost as big as the 3 units.
It's shorter and only 2 floors, so it's
Right, but on the plan.
footprint-wise.
Because when I went up there and walked it recently, I was just looking, I'm trying to envision where I was on the lot, because everything that looks like it's in blue was sloped, and there seemed to be some ledge outcropping, and there were a bunch of trees where the roots were all showing. So are you planning to take down all those trees on that, and what I'm gonna call the back lot of Plainville Place?
So the back lot actually starts here. So this is the lot separation line right there.
Oh, okay, so that's where the basketball court was and the other stuff in the backyard,
There might have been one there.
or the basketball
And
hoop.
there was cars parked back here somewhere. There's kind of like a gravel portion back here. So there's an existing wall that came back past the building, and the cars parked essentially here. That came to about there.
Okay, and that appeared to be about 8 feet high from there, when I was standing
So
on,
the original parking was, yes, up on that was about that high. I would say, yeah, it was about 9, so maybe 6 to 8 feet.
yeah.
So yeah, and then the existing trees are essentially back here. They're keeping there. That paved area is like.
But that's,
People parking right about there.
that's beyond the fire hydrant though, so that's on the significant slope down.
It's the significant slope kind of happens here and then it flattens out a little bit more. So if you can see from the grading here, this significant slope happens right there.
Yeah.
And most of it is kind of flattened out as you get back down to Granville Place. Kind of slopes steeply.
Yeah, no, I saw it, and it does flatten out a little bit, but then it drops off again afterwards.
After the hydrant, yes, but we're not touching that. That's all back here. Where it drops off again. So the hydrant is located right about there. And that on our plan is probably right there.
Okay,
Yeah, the hydrant on our plan is almost at the end of the parking area. It's only captured is at the end, just for the.
yeah, and make sure you sign in, please, after. So are you gonna take down all those trees, or?
No, we'd rather not take down all those trees. We're trying to keep as many in that back where the sloping pieces are as we can. We're intending to keep them there.
Are you planning to, because some of them, there was significant root exposure.
I mean, we haven't gone through the plan and looking at which trees would be the ideal ones to save or which ones that are worth saving. But the intent was to keep as many of the existing trees that are in that back portion of the lot as we can.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Oh, sorry, I'm sorry. Would you like me to run through the existing?
Yes, please.
So as the existing structure is set up now, It has 4 units, as we said before. Starting with the first floor plan, which is the one on that side, the bluish one, you enter to a common stair, which provides access to a first floor unit, which is a 3-bedroom unit, which takes up essentially the entire first floor, which is the blue color on your plan. The 2 yellow areas are more common areas with stairs. As you go up that set of stairs, the common stair to get to that second floor plan, that yellow shaded area is a 1-bedroom unit, isolated on that floor itself. The pink section in the back, which is accessed from the stair on the side, actually goes up to the 3rd floor, which would be the attic floor up in the dormers. So that is also a 3-bedroom unit. As you can see, that interior stair goes up to the next floor above, which is under the roof. And then on the front portion of the building, which would be the Granville Ave side, the purple section is where the studio apartment is located. So it's 4 units, sort of stacked up and kind of intertwined as it goes through. So as you move to our plan, I'll go to the one back. So the top drawing with no color on it would be a basement plan, essentially, a foundation plan. That first section is the essentially the existing footprint before that first garage. So we're planning on having parking below the building. As you come around that and the natural topography slopes down, it allows us to get underneath the building in order to just put some parking inside. So if you come up to the next floor, which would be the first floor plan, we have the similar setup with a entry off of Granville Ave and a common stair to a first floor unit, which is now a 2-bedroom unit, which is that brownish color that's shaded in. That would be the same location as the first floor unit that exists now. As you go up to the second floor, but we'll go to the back, we'll go to the second floor. As you go up to the second floor for that common stair, there's a gray shaded unit. So the 2 units above this now are 2-story units. They're like duplex units. So when you get to that second floor, each of those units have an interior stair of their own to get up to the attic space. So their second floor of the building has their living space, which is living, dining, kitchen, and a bath in most cases. And then you go upstairs to the more private areas, which is bedrooms and baths, which are at the 3rd floor under the roof in dormers, as the way the building is now. The addition or extension is a separate piece unto itself. So the parking for that is in the lower level, entered from the back, and that essentially is a townhouse unit which has only 2 floors. So when we get to the elevations, you can kind of see better how that works. But you can get an idea of it in the sections if you flip to the colored sections kind of show you that those correspond to the units themselves. So you can kind of see how the things are stacked up, and it gives you an idea of what's actually happening throughout the building. So to get a closer look at the plans, we just put some larger floor plans so you can get a better idea of how the units are laid out. As I said before, the first floor unit would be within the existing footprint of the other building is that orangey brown color, and it shows as a 2-bedroom unit, 2-bath unit with living and dining and kitchen encompassing the entire first floor. If you look to the blue piece, that section is actually, the floor heights are slightly different. If you look in the section that I believe one is at 90 and the other is at 93, and that was in order to get the parking below. But the building itself is actually only 2 stories, so it's still shorter than what the existing structure is. So it'll still be lower than that. And that also has a kitchen and living room and a bedroom on that first floor. As you go up through the building, this next page shows the second and the top floor together so you can get a better sense of how they relate to each other. So this is the common stair, which is the yellowish color. That's a common hallway, and that allows you access to the 2 first floors of those units. And both of those units have interior stairs to themselves that go up to a second floor. So the top section would be the second floor of the structure. The gray color is on the Granville Ave side, so that's the front. We're calling that the front. And inside of that unit, you essentially go up a set of stairs to get to a bedroom above. So that has a bedroom on the second floor and one on the 3rd floor underneath the roof. The unit towards the back, which is the sort of mauve color, has a kitchen, living, dining, bathroom, or half bath on the lowest level. When you go up underneath the roof into the attic space, you get 2 bedrooms and 2 baths. As far as the blue piece is concerned, that is actually only at the floor below. It does not have that attic level. We're only at that floor below. and that would be a foot higher than the second floor of that one, but the structure itself is lower. And you can get a better idea of that if you look at the rendering page. So on the number one, your top left, that's essentially what the building looks like now. I don't know if you're familiar with the building, but we're essentially making the exact same shape. With dormers above right now, the dormers are a little, they seem to be tacked on. We're trying to integrate them better so it feels more correct. So that number one would be essentially what you would see from down the street a little bit on Granville Ave, across from Granville Place, I guess you would say. And the one below that is the driveway elevation where the driveway exists now, which we're eliminating. And that's the side plan, which is essentially the same as what they have now. The elevation looks essentially the same. Window locations are different, but the shape is identical. If you go to number 5 on that page, the middle one on the bottom, that's the front elevation, essentially, of the building. It's very similar to what is now. Front porch, deck above, window pattern is almost the same. You get a better sense of how we're trying to duplicate what's there. But the one above that is the entrance to the back unit, or the extension, the addition unit. And you can see it's much shorter. It only looks like a 2-story piece. And that is on the, I guess you would call it the driveway side of the existing building. Now has a driveway all done, but we've created a green space to get from Granville Ave with a walkway that gets back to that entrance on the side. You can see, if you come around around Granville Place, it's number 6 on this page. As the topography comes down, you can see where that garage entry is. It would be under the building, essentially. As you're coming down, there's the blue car. There's a garage door right there. That is to get underneath the building on that side to have, there's 2 parking spaces there, which would be for 2 of the units on the front building. And then as you come around that rear one, you get to number 3, and that's the back garage, which is facing away from Granville Ave with the 2 garage doors.
Okay.
So that's essentially as if you were walking around the building. That's kind of how it's set up. The intent was to essentially duplicate the existing building, get it to look as similar as we can to that, and have this other piece feel like it was an addition that was put on. And the reason that we lowered it and turned the gables was to relate to the things that are across Granville Place. They're gable-ended. They're about 2.5 stories on that side. We're trying to relate to them so that side feels comfortable as well. And with respect to those residences and the people that live there, to not to put something that's going to feel like this giant flat wall of stuff, which is essentially what the building now has. So we're trying to mitigate that by changing the geometry a little bit. And I think that it accomplishes it and frankly leaves a better view for the people on the street. The only other thing that we're thinking of is we have a retaining wall that's on the site now next to the building. And after a neighborhood meeting, we got a lot of comments about how narrow the street is and it's difficult if people are trying to get in and out. We're proposing to get rid of that retaining wall and use the building as retaining, which would allow it to be a little bit wider at that location, so that if we did have 2-way traffic, because I think now the street is, I think it's 10 feet wide, it might be 12 on plan.
I think it's 12.
Yeah, it's pretty narrow.
I was going to make a comment that it seems a lot more spacious in your renderings.
It's very
when
narrow.
I was up there.
Yeah, so if you go back to the plan, you can kind of see it on the page 1 of 5. So essentially, there was a wall that came out to this corner right on the property line. We're proposing moving that and using the building as the retaining itself.
You're going to extend it a little bit, okay.
So that space can be used, I don't know if we'll pave it, but.
Well, I was going to ask you plan on that,
So in the
Granville
plan,
Place looked to be in pretty tough shape. It had a big natural gas patch in the middle of it. Are you planning on, where it's going to be the main access to the back parts of your building, are you planning on paving Granville Place?
we haven't talked about that. We haven't gotten that far in our discussions to repave it. The intent of this was we would have some landscaping so it didn't seem like a hardscape all the way down, but that gray area would be some sort of gravel or some place for a pull-off so someone can get off to the side and allow 2 cars to pass each other.
how would you integrate taking down the retaining wall if
good-
you don't do any paving?
That's a good question. And I think we'd have to come up with a plan on how to do that. The idea was to side the foundation itself with stone or some sort of culture stone to keep the same feel as it has now. So it would still kind of portray as though there was a wall there. It would just be at the building. But in order of a way to do it, we haven't come up with a plan on how to get it done yet. And then,
Okay.
from what I remember, the wall had a slight tilt to it as well. So we were thinking it might be a good idea to remove it.
Okay. How long, if this were to pass, how long do you think this renovation and development would take?
That's a tough question for me to answer. Do you have a ballpark on what your time frame would be? Yeah, within the year, as soon as possible, I guess. Hopefully.
And have you proceeded along far enough to know whether you have any ledge removal that
Also
needs
good.
to happen from the outcrop in the back?
That's a great question. I think I'll pass it off to the site engineer.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
If you could speak into the microphone too, sir, that'd be great.
Thank you. So, as you've all said, parcel's 10,500 square feet in the existing condition. There's about a 1,400 square foot footprint, existing building, and some associated parking with the driveway that's, we'll call it plan south. It's a little southwest, but we'll call it plan south of the building. And at the rear of the building is the natural breaking grade. So from the back side of the building to the west, the runoff slopes in that direction, and then from the front side of the building towards Granville Ave is where the drainage goes currently. We went out and we did some test pits. There are some ledge outcrops, but in the areas that we're working, the ledge was down about 5-6 feet from existing grade, which is about 8 feet from the proposed grade, because that area is going to come up. So we don't anticipate, because it's sloping down in that direction, we don't anticipate encountering ledge. If we do, we'd be scraping the top surface for the footing, and it'd be most likely rippable ledge that you could handle with an excavator. We don't anticipate any blasting associated with the project. The way the proposed condition is going to work is we're removing the driveway to the plan south. That's going to become the walkway and open space area with a permeable paver stone walkway going to the rear unit. And that area will decrease the amount of runoff going out to Granville Ave. And then the new addition and the new parking area to the rear of the building is going to go to a catch basin, which is actually they call it a swirl particle separator. The runoff goes in. There's a series of weirs and kind of like a vortex type system that spins the stormwater, settles out any sediment, and then from there it would go to an infiltration area, which is why we did the test pits out at the rear of the site. And we're going to infiltrate up to the 2-year storm event. So any runoff that's generated up to the 2-year storm, about 3 inches of rainfall in 24 hours, will go on the ground. After that point, it'll be released and carry on in its natural pattern to the rear of the site. So, trying to think of any other high points on the project. The infiltration area being right here, the discharge in the end to a level spreader, which is a large riprap pad that slows any discharges, spreads it out over about a 15-foot area, so there's no channelization, and it doesn't exacerbate the existing erosion that's happening out there. Let me see if I just had, and I think that covers most of the site engineering. It is a pretty small site. There's not much going on out there for civil site work. And then as was indicated, There are two areas of relief next to the building, so you could potentially pass two vehicles, which you cannot do today. So there's an overall net improvement to the accessibility to the area.
Okay. Let me ask you a question. Would you be able to speak to the open space, or was that the other gentleman?
No, I can speak to the open space, and Malden has kind of a weird open space definition. It's very restrictive. It's only half of the setback. It must be pervious, and in the existing condition, there's about 300 square feet of open space. Would be half of this setback area, and up to the edge of the pavement, it's about 4 feet by 8 feet. And then what qualifies on the new plan would be from the back of this driveway in this area here, which goes up to about 1,100 square feet or 1,130 square feet of open space. So even though it's non-conforming in both situations, we are making an improvement on that non-conformity.
So you're saying right now it's on the driveway side where the basketball hoop is?
That's all that qualifies for, so from the edge of the driveway, there's kind of a vegetated area that goes into half of the setback. So it's like 7.5 feet, I'm sorry, 7.5 by 40, not 4 by 80. But that's the 320 square feet of open space. It's about half of that lawn next to where the driveway, where the basketball court is.
In the proposal, isn't it going to extend down into the new addition? On the pavers and the walkway that I saw on the plan?
Yes, so some of that paver and walkway area over in here qualifies. There's a slope requirement on the open space as well, which is what disqualifies a lot of the
Right,
rear of
the
park.
8%, right.
Yes.
Okay, so there's some open space. You're thinking it's 1,100 in total?
Yes, in the proposed condition, it is 1126.
Okay.
So it's about an 800 square foot increase from the existing condition.
Okay, thank you. And you haven't considered repaving. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, does anyone else have any other questions for the petitioner? Ken Antonucci.
Yes, just curious, so I just want to clarify. You're talking about raising the original structure, foundation included, you're not reusing the existing foundation, right?
We're hoping to save as much as we can, but we're not, we're very cautiously optimistic. It's 100 years old plus. But anything we can save, we will save. But
Do we know, is it where it's that old, it must be just a stone foundation, it's not a concrete foundation, right? So you'll probably end up having to remove the existing foundation and re-pour it with a concrete foundation, but it'll be the exact same footprint in the original.
exact same footprint, that's correct.
Okay, and I notice, obviously with the parking, you're gonna have you're gonna have a curb cut on Granville Ave for 2 vehicles, and then you're gonna end up with 2 curb cuts on Granville Place. One to go into the park garages that are on the access from the side, and then 2 that you actually have to access beneath the new portion of the building. Do you know if you have enough room there for a swing to pull in and take those, basically you're pulling in and taking a left to get into the garage space?
There's a little more than 20 feet, about 21 feet when you factor in the offset plus the 12-foot right-of-way width. And we did run a passenger car. I don't know that anyone's going to be parking a Suburban in there to swing out, but a passenger vehicle can. can make the swing.
So the curb cut will actually be, it'll have to be pretty much that full width
That's correct.
between the back of the
And-
structure and the beginning of the parking spots,
But
A
there's-
7, 8, and 9.
Correct, and that curb cut does serve a second purpose. As we said, that gives a vehicle that's exiting when another vehicle enters Granville, the ability to pull off to the edge of the road and let it pass. So there is some net benefit to the neighborhood by doing that. So you want it to be at least 18 feet to get a vehicle to be able to pull into it off the edge of the road.
Okay, and you mentioned that you're gonna be removing the existing retaining walls out there, but you also said you're gonna be raising the grade of the
To the
property?
where it goes for about a foot here, and then you have that steep slope going down. So we're actually filling a portion of that steep slope to fit the underground detention area in there. So this back portion is being raised.
Okay, so it's just the back, it's just the rear portion of the property, it's not
The
where it is.
rest of the site, we're pretty much meeting grades all the way down, and it's this back area, the parking lot, and then
To create the retention area?
Correct.
Okay. Just give me a second. Sorry, I have some other notes. And then as far as the ledge, you don't expect to have to demo any ledge, whatever you do come across, you feel it's weathered and should be able to be just scraped out with an excavator?
Yeah, it would only be with, if we encounter it, it would be with the footing, and it would just be scraping that, and then it actually makes once you get the weathered material off, it makes a great place to set a footing upon.
Right, so, as it does show, say in that test pit 3, you've got ledge approximately 2 feet down, but at that point, that doesn't have a basement, that's your garage slab, so you won't have to dig down
Correct.
far anyways. Okay.
And just a caution on that, if you do find you have to do any type of ledge excavation, you would need to apply for a permit. That's a separate permit for excavating ledge and how you're gonna do it and how it's gonna impact the neighborhood,
Yeah.
things like that, just
Yeah, I believe-
FYI.
Yeah, I believe that's even if it is just rock excavation with the excavator.
Still
You still have to
requires.
notify. Yeah. Okay, I think that's it for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Eric McCush.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have a question on property lines, and this might not be, I know it's not a perfect map, but it looks like neighbors on either side are utilizing your property for access to get to either park or to get to their own property?
Neighbors have access to part of our property at the rear for parking. I don't know, I'm not aware that they're accessing, that they're coming across our property to access theirs.
The way the map reads, it looks like the property on the left drives across your property to use their own driveway and for the house behind it. And again, this might not be right. Yeah, this one looks like it's, and then this back here, this clearly looks like it's on the property. Okay, you're right.
A
What
point of
it looks like
clarification.
on the, excuse me, Counselor, on the plan, what it looks like is that you to drive in the driveway to get to the back area by the garage, you drive across 76 Granvilles to get to 74 Granville in the back.
And I'm sorry, we're not on the Granville Place side, we're on the other side.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
But on the Granville Place side, to the rear of the property, looks like they're utilizing your property.
There's two separate edge pavements. One here, so this is our parking area, and then there's an edge pavement here that runs right up to the property.
Okay.
So they're separated, they're not
Yes.
that portion there. So it does look like it's paved over the.
And especially when you get back to get back to that back part, it looks like you have to drive over 76's land, keep going. Isn't there a building, a structure there?
And so, this pavement goes here, comes down the property line, comes out and services this lot.
Yeah.
But they're clipping just a small portion, and I think we can.
I was expecting to actually see an easement. I thought that driveway that went up to where the basketball hoop is was shared with 74.
72.
Is it 74, 72?
72, but it does, it looks like it's cut right down the middle.
They have their own access.
Excuse me.
It looks,
Mike, please. We can't hear.
sorry.
Okay, thank you.
So they have their own driveway adjacent to the house. They-
Okay.
yeah. I guess they technically could connect through. There's a little small area that's unpaved that you could drive over, but they have separate driveways. That driveway is, there's a small portion of it that encroaches on our property. I don't know that we have any grading proposed there. We'll probably just leave it as is, correct? And we're talking maybe 6 feet by 3 feet in a triangle.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for the petitioner? Eric Henry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just trying to understand your design, your plans with regards to stormwater, rainwaters there. You know, as there are a lot more people who are more qualified than it, but it seems to me that the grading of that lot in that where your stormwater, rainwater is going to sit, that area slopes down like 30 feet in a relatively short distance there. So you're planning stormwater, drain water for a 2-year event, and I'm just wondering why to me, that seems to be kind of minimalist with regards, especially given the gradient in that area of the lot. So maybe you could speak to.
So the 2-year event is a 3-inch rainfall within 24 hours, and it's a type 3 design storm, which means that about 2/3 of the volume falls in the peak 3 hours. It's a very intense, high-volume storm. 92% of the rainstorms that we get in Massachusetts are less than 1 inch on a daily basis, like if we get a regular rainfall event. So what we did was we took a volume equivalent to that 3.1 inches over the new impervious surfaces, and we put that into the ground. Once you get over that, you're still taking 3 inches, so the 100-year rainstorm is 6.5 inches of rainfall. We're still taking that first 3.1 inches off of that. So we've taken that 100-year event and essentially turned it into a 2-year event as to what's going to come off the site. So we are chopping down the volume and intensity for all the storms, but the design that we said we're going to take all of this from the new rooftop and put underground goes up to the 2-year event. And then after that, we start releasing stormwater to the neighborhood. So we're decreasing the intensity of all the storms. Just up to the 2-year event, they won't see any runoff from the. Yes, it's an improvement over the existing conditions. We're taking a considerable volume out of the whole equation. So in most rainstorms, they won't realize that there's a paved parking lot or an addition at all up to the 2-year event. And then we'll be releasing some stormwater in greater events, but still knocking the peaks down and the volume down that's heading in that direction. And the project itself isn't subject to the state stormwater regulations because it's less than 5 units, which is what triggers state stormwater regulations. So we're even exceeding the regulatory requirements.
Understanding all of that, it's been my personal experience that to get that volume of water 2 to 3 inches in that period of time is rather uncommon around in this areas. But what I'm more accustomed to seeing is a steady rain over 18, 24 plus hours, and that will activate, you know, a lot of these things, and that, to me, intensities of our storms are getting greater. And while you are exceeding the requirements, and you should be commended for that, but it seems to me that there's a bit of opportunity to have hit you know, you may be hitting a double here. You could triple or a real solid home run if the way to expand upon that, on your design there.
The design infiltration rate, based off of what we've observed, is 2.41 inches per hour through the soil. And that's the design rate, which is about 50% of the actual rate. That's how they come up with it. That's using the Rawls table through the stormwater handbook. So for rainfall intensities less than 2.41 inches an hour, we're providing, you know, storage that will handle that. The issue comes in, like I said, these design storms that are high intensity. Think of a major thunderstorm that hits and dumps 6-7 inches of rain. Those are very difficult to design for, especially on a 10,000 square foot lot. You're probably looking at filling the whole back section and cutting the trees down to store that volume. We came up with the 2-year volume because that's essentially the rate that the water all, you know, it matches that 2.4 approximately, and then we provide that extra storage. But in a low intensity, not a engineering design storm where you have just kind of a steady ½ inch per hour, it will drain that because it's not exceeding the infiltration capacity of the soil.
Fair enough. Thank you, sir.
Okay, you all set, Eric? Ken Antonucci.
Yeah, just to add on to that and just to clarify a little, so even though your position is, even though you're increasing the capture area because the roof is, you're adding about, what, 1,121 square feet of roof area, that's all gonna be captured. Today, it would just come down, hit the ground, and it would get infiltrated. Now, you're gonna be capturing that rainwater, and through the gutters and downspouts, that's gonna be captured and go into the infiltration system.
In addition to the back parking lot that we're adding.
And the back parking lot, okay. So normally, if we had the storm and the building wasn't constructed, once you exceeded that 2.41 inches, it's basically heading downhill.
It's turning into surface runoff.
Yeah, it's down to, what is the street behind it? Yeah, down to 18 Johnson, down there.
And
So-
it's the 2.41 inches is the parent material, so you have the loam on top of it, which is probably absorbing less. You know, a good loam is probably a ½ inch an hour that it can handle before it starts to run off. So the design rate on that would be a ¼ inch per hour. When you get down to the sand that's overlaying that ledge layer, it's a coarse gravel, so you have a much higher infiltration capacity. So as we said, it's an improvement over the existing conditions.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Okay, any other questions for the petitioner? Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we'll like to entertain anyone who would like to speak in favor of the petition. Is there anyone that would like to speak in favor? Okay, yep, come up, name and address for the record, and please also sign the clipboard.
Good evening. My name is Frank Bonanno. I'm one of the owners of, excuse me, 82 Granville Ave. And that abuts Granville Place. And over the years, you know, the house has been pretty much, well, I'd say it should be taken down. I look at that house every day out my kitchen window. I'm sure this is going to be a plus for the neighborhood.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Anyone else that would like to speak in favor? Anyone speak in favor? Hearing none, declare that part of the hearing closed. Is there anyone that would like to speak in opposition to this petition? If you'd like to speak in opposition, feel free to come up to the podium, name and address for the record, and if you could sign the clipboard too, that'd be great. Thank you.
I will, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen, councilman. I'm a little disappointed. My name is Marjorie Pearlstein. I live at 1 Fairview Avenue, which if my door entered onto Granville Ave, I'd be 75. So I'm directly across from the house. And this is all very bright and shiny. We all want that. But the impact on the area is just, it exceeds anything we've ever seen up there. Excuse me, I'm a little nervous. You did ask the last petitioner all about the trash removal and the snow removal. Those are two big issues in this neighborhood. They're small, they're hills, and right now, where this house is in the back is where we'd like to see the snow go, because there is no other place. But when it comes out, they actually dump it on the sidewalk that we've already had shoveled or plowed, and that's where it stays until it melts in the spring. So I'm very unhappy already with the situation. A couple of things I want to correct, because while that house has had 4 units in it, for the last 20 years, it hasn't been livable for 4 units. There's only been, at the maximum, 2 units used. And the last people that lived in it lived with wood boarded up windows and no screens, so they never were able to open their windows. And that's kind of my problem. It's not that I don't think we should have more building, and 4 units doesn't seem like a lot of units, but in our neighborhood, it's an apartment building, and this is not an owner-occupied building we're talking about. We're talking about rentals. We're talking about rentals that'll probably be overpriced. Nobody lives in this hill area any length of time unless they own a house, because the hills are egregious to navigate in the winter, in the summer, anything. So these people will be turning over all the time. If there's a bottleneck in the area, that's where it is, because of the way you have to turn right there at the junction of Fairview and Granville. There's traffic all the time. With COVID, deliveries have been incessant. So they park there. They hold up any traffic right now with anyone going by. I love the idea that there's underneath parking, but we all know nobody pulls into their garages underneath their house. They use it for a big closet or a storage unit. Nobody does. As a point of fact, down the street, right next to the other Motzkin property, which is very well cared for, the house was built as a single. There is now, that garage was taken out, and there's a second apartment in that house. So we don't want the density in the neighborhood. We can't have it. I got more. My house is over 100 years old, and no one's talking about it has to come down. This house is in disrepair, and that's because the owner has chosen not to repair it. The rest of the neighborhood is probably 92% owner living, but they're all 1- and 2-family occupied. And the one example of a young gentleman that's in the audience now, he's in the neighborhood every month at his property taking care of it. That house is well taken care of. We have another property that has gone to a trust across the street from us, and the police log will tell you how well that's going. It's not working out for us. There isn't a resident that lives there that cares about the neighborhood, that cares whether anything's picked up. With the new state laws, with textiles being deposited, every time they move, they'll be throwing out bedding and clothing and everything, and there isn't a name to call. There's just a company. This is a neighborhood. We all live there, and we've been there, I've been there 70 years. Some have been there longer. Person next to the street bought his father's house. This is Jimmy's father's house that they're talking about. This isn't a financial hardship for this family. To have to build an investment property in this little tiny neighborhood is just ridiculous. I didn't see, while it has all those bedrooms and you think it's going to have families, there's any place for children to play. There's nothing there. There's no place where it's a home for anybody. And I just don't want to deal with it. I am across the street. When this is built, I will have no sun. It'll just be above me. That is the only place I have sun, because up the hill is my brother, and he's above me. So I'm very concerned, and I can live with the size if they were going to be owner-occupied condos, where I know that people are going to really care for it and take care of it and be part of our neighborhood. But I don't want an apartment building. I don't understand, if it's coming down, why the front of it can't be put back like every other house another few feet, so the stairs don't come down to the sidewalk. It doesn't look like an apartment building. It could look like a residential home, but the new plan doesn't make it look like that. Anything else? Again, the trash removal, I don't know that there's any plan. I can't read the plans as well as everybody else perhaps, but I don't know where the second exits are on some of those apartments. It seems like they're planning to use the garage as exits, and I didn't know if that was okay. But I don't think if you're building a new home, you have to plan it that way.
For code, they will have to have two means of entrance and egress.
Yeah, and it probably is there, but I just couldn't figure it. We didn't see the plans until now. So.
And with regard to the trash, they would be bound by the city's trash program.
Right. So what are we talking, like 8 things?
Recycling
left
bins,
on, right, and they only have a short footage between all these curb cuts to put them out. They go away, they're there for a long time. Let's really be serious about who's going to rent there. It's probably going to be single people. They're going to have 3 bedrooms. They're all going to have 3 partners. They're all going to have visitors. There could be as many as 18 or 20 cars there, not just, 9 cars. And it's, again, we don't have a lot of traffic. We have more traffic now with the Mystic Valley Athletic Field being built, and Waze has probably upset more little neighborhoods than anything. But it's generally a very, very quiet area. And like I said, the new people, again, the property beside it was sold by the Motzkins, and they built 2 single-family homes, are our new neighbors. They've been there 28 years, 29 years. They're fabulous. They're well taken care of. And that's what I want to see. I want to see neighborhood housing. I don't want an apartment building. I don't want to see blue lights showing up in my neighborhood all the time. Because no one's going to stay any length of time, and we're not convenient to convenience stores. It's not a place where people come to walk around the neighborhood. They don't, public transportation is a hike. You have to go up and down these hills every time to leave the neighborhood. So no one stays, except the people that have been there now 60 or 70 years. So I hope you'll resolve some of those issues for us before you even consider going further with this.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak in opposition?
It'll take me a while to write. I'm old. Hi, my name's Arthur Burge.
I live at 71 Granville Ave. I basically had ties to this neighborhood for 76 years in June, the end of June. I lived there my whole life. I was born there and everything. I know the Motzkins real well. My sister, Margie, some of you might know that anyway, but spoke about many of the things. I remember when that was a two-family house, and eventually these little apartments got added on. Wasn't bad, but that was a time also when maybe a family had one car. Half the families didn't even have a car, so there wasn't a lot of traffic problems. Now there's no parking on the street on one side, so that eliminates public parking. I had kind of written some questions that I was hoping I could answer, and one is, you know, what is the height of this structure gonna be? When I looked at the drawings, it kind of seemed like it cut it off at 34 and something feet. I think the maximum you can go is 35 feet in that section, in that housing. But if you look at the drawings, they start drawing like partway up the bottom of the basement, and they kind of stop before they get to the peak of the house, and it comes out to 34 feet. So I'm assuming that it's pretty damn close to the 35 feet. They mentioned they may not be changing the basement, but they are raising the basement up 5 to 6 feet. I looked at the drawing, I went out and measured the old basement. It's basically 4.5 feet. The drawing says it's gonna be, the top of it's gonna be 10 feet. That's raising the house up. And I mean, I think that's, one drawing, it kind of looks like they take that into consideration, but I question the height, if it is. The stairs look like they're gonna be the same. None of you probably remember when Joy was the building inspector. He told me, you can't come right down onto the sidewalk. It's against ordinances. These stairs are going right down to the sidewalk. It's probably easily remedied. We mentioned the trash. I mean, I look out and almost every house has at least three containers out there that I see. You know, usually one recycling and two rubbish. I mean, and I know the city gives you one of each. So there's a possibility of a lot more. Where do you put those after? When you take them in off the street, people working, I know they will get off, but my feeling is, again, if it's owner occupied, there's someone there to say, hey, get your stuff off, or to do that. We had that, the lawyer had mentioned, we had a meeting in the backyard, and what the questions that come up were, what about trash, what about snow removal? There were small storms, but the city ordinance is, you gotta shovel your sidewalk after 24 hours. They weren't shoveled over there. And there wasn't much snow. I mean, it was gone in a day and a half, but still, no one was up there to make sure they were shoveled, because no one's living there. No one's probably, I think, I'm gonna be optimistic and say probably 2 years no one's been living in the house. So is it an abandoned house or not? There's no power or anything in it. But, the egress to Unit 3 was the one that I had trouble looking at the drawings and finding out where the egress was, the second egress. You know, I know, I'm pretty sure you can't have an egress through the garage, you know, I think, but I don't know that for sure. The front stairs, bear with me. Yeah. You know, on apartment 4, which is that townhouse addition, it's got three bedrooms. and a loft space. You know what loft space is to me? That's a spare bedroom. Legally, it's not, but that's what people are gonna think, in my opinion. So that's an opportunity to get more beds in there. On the previous plan they showed us, they didn't mention it, but there were bonus spaces. Again, you watch HGTV when they're doing the houses, oh, you know, this is a spare, possible spare bedroom. I know you gotta have windows and all that. I am, this was a lot better plan than I saw before. But when I hear deconstruct, I think of what they did over on Seaview Ave, where they stripped all the outside, they left the framing, they left the side, the sheathing, and redid the house. And I've seen a lot of houses in Malden doing that. To me, that's deconstructing, not demolishing. I live in a house that was built in 1880s. My foundation's in good shape. And they probably wouldn't have to do anything with the foundation if they weren't building it up another 5 to 6 feet. And the snow removal is always an issue. Like I said, it is when people come to plow, they tend to plow out and push it onto our sidewalk after we've done our good citizen deed and plowed the sidewalk. And, you know, and after it's been plowed in there, it's a lot harder to get rid of. Oh, the backlot drain, I was confused on, I thought the plan was they were gonna take part of that backlot to do this addition.
That's what they described tonight.
That's what they described. And then, so does that mean you're using the other half of it for the extra parking? Or is that?
Yeah, I believe
Or
there's
is
gonna
that
be
gonna,
two
are we
spots
gonna be back
back
here in 3 years, 2 years to build a bungalow? I don't know. It's just a random thought.
Yeah, I can't answer that, but,
Yeah.
and that's part of the reason why we didn't address the snow removal from a different perspective from the first case, is with the parking and yard they provided, there appeared to be snow removal from the driveway portion. I think if I'm right, what you're describing is they didn't shovel off the sidewalk.
Yeah, they didn't shovel off the sidewalk.
That would be the responsibility of the owner before, and I assume it was the same owner.
Yeah.
Before,
Oh, yeah.
so they're gonna have the same responsibility to remove
They had tenants
that after.
they had tenants that did do it, and he was a young kid, he'd be able to shovel, we'd go out with a snow blower and we'd do it for him. But that's, the neighborhood is, you're out there shoveling your car out, we're gonna help you out. That's the way it's always been. The new people coming in, you gotta convince them that it's really a good system, you know? I'm old, I'm around all the time, I'd like to shovel people's driveways out so when they come home from work, they don't have to shovel out. I did that for a lot of years. A lot more than you're even been alive, Diane. So, for me to say that, well, this could work, would be to cut that townhouse portion by 1 bedroom and that loft or bonus space. They said the original house, there were studio apartments, small rooms, so that, I mean, even the 4, as I understand the zoning laws, that we're zoned for 1 and 2 family houses. And you need a variance, as far as so even if they didn't put on that addition, they're still not within variance, in my opinion. Because I saw it, once you tore something down, all bets are off for what is grandfathered in. So, and like you know, it was brought up that they were gonna take out that little wall along Granville Place. Yeah, it's probably 4.5 feet. Well, in one of the drawings, it almost looks like someone is parking next to the building. what's gonna stop people from parking next to the building? Especially if we're gonna have to call the police, we're gonna have to call this LLC or trust, whatever it is, you know, we're gonna have to be policing that. We don't wanna do that. Oh, and the drainage on the way back lot, I'd be surprised if most of that back lot down where the parking is, I doubt if there's more than 5 inches of dirt there. It's almost all ledge. Like I say, I've been there a long time. I've done a lot of stuff in that neighborhood. So that's it, and I would, and basically if they answer some of those questions, reduce the size. I'm for, Malden needs affordable housing. I don't see this being affordable housing. It's just more housing. And, it was mentioned that, I know of at least 4 non-owner occupied houses in our immediate neighborhood. One, Kevin's property is great. He takes care of things. He gets Frankie to do his snow blowing for him and everything. Another house, the owner's not there. I probably see him once every month and a half or so. He comes over and we talk. The White House on Baker Street, the junk in the yard, never mind the police stakeouts and all that stuff, because it doesn't seem like anything gets done. It's the landlord, he does mow the lawn and rake the leaves and blows them out into the street. Well, his contractor does. And the other one's the property we're talking about, which I say has basically been abandoned for 2 years. Anyway, I think I'm cutting them slack. It's probably closer to 3. And before that, for, I don't know, 20 years, it's probably been a 2-family. And all these, and you could never figure out if there was 2 families in there or 1, but like rooms. So that's about what I had. I know I'm probably not missing something. But that is where I'm at. So as you make your decisions, think owner occupied. Think downsizing the addition. We could live with, I could live with 3 units in there. Get the variance so he could have 3 units in there. From before, I was, with the new, footage, you'll have to tear every other house on the street down, because I think I've got 5,000 square feet, more or less, No one in the neighborhood has a big yard. And it looks like the opportunity is there to have a big yard. Another option would be to put a 2-family on the current property and a 2-family on the property behind it. All right. I hope I didn't confuse the shit out of you. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Counselor, can you address the resident's question about how tall the building actually is? I know it's going to be 3 feet, 3 stories, and 3 stories are allowed by zoning, but it's 3 stories and 35 feet. What is your exact estimate?
We're building it back to its exact height.
Which is what?
We don't know the exact
Because
height
it's at 2.5 stories right now, and you're building out to 3.
We're building to the same height it is now. It's 2.5.
And we don't know what that number is.
I don't know what the exact numbers we can measure up to the height of the building. No.
Okay, thank you.
But it will be, the intent is to be the same height.
Thank you. You can have a seat.
Thank you.
I was just gonna ask, because it shows on the drawing. Yeah, right, yeah.
Okay, is there anyone else that would like to speak in opposition to this? Yep, feel free to come up, name and address for the record, and sign the clipboard.
Hi, my name is Paula Orte. Me and my husband own the property that's in 9 Granville Place. So I'll promise to be brief. So essentially, we bought our house about 6 years ago. One of the things that I really loved about our house was the fact that it was in a very quiet street. We had that feeling of being pretty much away from the city without actually being too far away from the city. It was that nice and quiet that I really appreciated. So in addition to that, I also have a few concerns about this new property. I do agree with Frank that, you know, it's having to rebuild and remodel that area would be nice for the neighborhood, because right now it's kind of like falling apart. But for me, being on Granville Place, one of my main concerns is parking. So if any of you are familiar with the access to Granville Place, it's essentially just a long driveway, as the way it is. Barely fits essentially one car. And right now, there's 2 properties, so 9 Granville Place and 11 Granville Place. At any given time, we have essentially 4 cars on that street, 3 in our driveway and one car for 11 Granville Place. And right now it's doable, but my understanding is the plan for this project is to have an addition 7 parking spots on that street. 4 that have access to a garage, that's my understanding, and 3 on the outside street. So if you do the math, that's 11 cars in that really, really small street. So I'm concerned about traffic, about snow plowing, where will, you know, that snow essentially go once they clean the street. And also in case of emergency, 11 cars trying to get out of one tiny street, how is that gonna play out? So there were talks about extending or opening that street, but it doesn't seem clear to me that that extension will make a huge difference unless you can fit 2 cars, so that if one car is trying to come into the street, another car can leave. I don't see how that much benefit it will add to the traffic. I also have concerns about trash. We've all talked about that, so I'm not gonna bang on the same topic. But yes, I'm not necessarily against the remodel or the rebuilding of that unit. I'm just really concerned about access to my driveway. How difficult is it gonna be for me in the morning to leave for work? You know, during snow, how that's gonna be during emergencies. And I'm also expecting, and due in April, there were talks about demolishing and building that property this year. I'm also concerned about the noise hazard or any other hazards that could be coming out potentially from all the construction. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in opposition?
Hi, my name is Barbara Murphy. I'm the Ward 5 City Councilor, and I'm going to sign in. So as we all gather here today to talk about this, obviously, you know, we have a piece of property up on Granville Ave that is in disrepair. So I think hopefully the goal of this is to try to come up with a consensus of how it can be repaired and will also fit well within the neighborhood. As most of you know from past discussions, I'm not a big density person. So I do have a little problem with this plan. I know, as Councilor Callahan will say, they're adding, another 5,000 square feet to a pre-existing non-conforming four-family house. And that's true. I mean, they're combining two pieces of property. But that pre-existing non-conforming house, one of the questions I have that I don't have an answer to, and don't have to tell me, but it's something I'd like you folks to maybe consider in your deliberation, is how many bedrooms were in that house? We know one of them was a studio. And, really, how many other bedrooms existed in that building? Today, what they're proposing is 9 bedrooms, okay, in a house that maybe had 9 bedrooms, maybe it had 5, maybe it had 4, maybe it had 6, I don't know the answer. But I think that's a huge issue that we need to think about, because the more bedrooms you put in, the more people you're going to have. And as one of the residents earlier said, most of these units are probably going to be highly priced. They're probably going to have 2 people living in a bedroom, and that can add up to the number of people, number of cars, et cetera. But that's something for you guys to deliberate. The biggest problem that I have with the plan is the fact that I really kind of feel like we know that in order to build a single-family home, you need 7,500 square feet today. And maybe at some point we'll reduce that back to 5,000, I don't know, but right now that's not the case. It seems like the way this is designed, it's almost a way to circumvent the fact that they have a second lot and they can't put a house on it. But yet this townhouse at the end is 1,864 square feet and 3 bedrooms and multiple bathrooms. It's a house, okay? It's not unit 4, it's a house. So, and if you take that and you combine the 6 bedrooms that are in the area that's going to be rebuilt, okay, that probably is at least equal or maybe more than the original house from a bedroom perspective. What are we putting in there? What is the detrimental effect to the neighborhood from that perspective? Do I agree we need to do something? Yes. Do I agree we need to cut them some slack to be able to do something nice up there for the neighborhood that's also beneficial to them financially? But I don't think we need to overgrow that particular area due to the topography of the area and the narrowness of the streets and the density that already exists up in that area. So those are just some of the things I'd like you to think of, but I'd really like you to take a good look at that drawing and look at Unit 4, because in my mind, it's a house. So anyway, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Counselor, I believe there are what would be considered 8 bedrooms in the existing house.
And how big were they? I mean...
Oh, they varied. One of them was a studio, a 280
Right.
square foot studio.
Right.
Right, but...
So
yes.
we're basically, as you said earlier, in order to put this type of a building up today, it would take over 18,000 square feet.
Right.
Okay? And we've also not only, we've taken the footprint, which is 1,400, did someone say? 1,400 square, pardon me? 1,400 square feet, and we're increasing that footprint significantly over the land usage. So just my thoughts going through my head, as I said, we're all charged with, obviously, a job to do. And something does need to be done with that property. I don't think anyone's going to argue with that. I don't think any of the neighbors want to continue looking as it is. I think there's probably a happy compromise somewhere. And I'm hoping that you folks can find it tonight so that everyone walks away happy. So, thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in opposition? Anyone else to speak in opposition? Seeing none, declare that part of the hearing closed. You all have the staff report in your package. Just to go over it briefly, the petition itself is to take something that has 3,005 square feet and increase it up to, increase it up to 8,369 square feet for the proposed dwelling. The lot size, the existing one that is 5,500, and they're going to combine it with the back lot, so that will bring it up to 10,500, still significantly below the required 18,750 for a four-family. As we heard from the neighborhood, that it's in zoning of Residence A. This four-family is pre-existing non-conforming. That's why it's allowed to exist right now. Maintaining that and extending that use in the current proposal would extend the four-family use. Whereas if they just tore everything down and started from fresh, they would then need to be bound by the Residence A zoning that is in effect. For dimensional controls, it has deficiencies in lot area of almost 8,300 square feet. It's the same front yard setback. There's a problem that, as we heard tonight, the stairs go right down onto the sidewalk, so there's really no front yard setback. Open space, they appear to be improving it a little bit over what's there right now. The building coverage is in compliance. Density is significantly higher. The density is 46% increase in a new deficiency for a total of deficiency of over 50%. Let's see. The parking requirements, they do appear to be meeting the parking requirements for the 9 bedrooms. To Councilor Murphy's question, they're basically going from 8 bedrooms to 9 bedrooms, but that's in a unit that is twice as large as the existing four-family is. They've gotten approval from the Malden Historical Commission with regard to approving the demolition without delay, and that was achieved in March of 2022. And that's a summary of where we sit right now. Does anyone have any questions or comments? I think it's a lot, personally. I think it's a big development in a close-knit neighborhood that's significantly short on the lot size, and the density, I think, is very extensive. So I'm concerned about the size of the unit, and I'm also concerned that I believe the current owner has owned it for a while, and the building is in disrepair. When I was out there, I don't know why that wasn't maintained over the years. I can't speak to the comments people made that it was only being operated as a 2-family. It's on the city books as a 4-family, so that's all I can go by from that end. But I think it's an awful lot of development in a small area. I'm real concerned about Granville Place, that the consideration isn't to repave that. I was pleased to hear that the idea is to take down that retaining wall so that you would get a few more feet, that widening it and make it a little more negotiable. I didn't try to drive down it. I ended up parking out front and walking down it just because I didn't want to mess around with having a back out onto Granville Ave. But I'm concerned about that something should be done about Granville Place, because it's not accepted as a public street. So basically, the people that abut on either side of it own out into the middle of it. So 9 and 11 would own out into the middle, and then the new lot, if it gets merged with 76 Granville, would own into the middle. So it's a shared responsibility being a private way. Those are my comments. I think it's a lot of development, which we seem to be seeing a lot of, that, you know, if they can do a 2, they want a 4. If they can, you know, if they can do 4, they want 6. And I'm not in favor of reducing the lot sizes and increasing density in the city, because of the ramifications that fall out from that with traffic, and then all the other impacts on our city services, on the other things that go along with having more people, and more cars, and more traffic, and more density in the city. Those are some of my thoughts. If anyone else has any other thoughts they would like to share, Ken Antonucci.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I too share the concern about the overall size. I know it's technically a 4-unit existing facility, but I think Councilor Murphy already left. She put it really well. And I was trying to figure out how to say it best, but this really is kind of skirting around the issue and essentially attaching a second house to the existing house. It's not really an addition, you know, even the way it looks. I mean, it looks like I know the idea was to add, or it was stated that the idea was to add something that looked like an addition, but it really is just a second structure attached to the first one, so you have one big structure, because it's not, the property isn't big enough to handle, the two properties individually aren't big enough to handle 2 units, or 2 buildings. You know, all the other concerns that everyone's mentioned, is also what the chair mentioned about, you know, Granville Place, and no improvements being made to that, or anything being spoken to that. It just seems awfully big. I mean, I'm sure it'll look a lot nicer than what's out there now, but it just, you know, it's very, very big. I mean, you're increasing the size of the building. Everyone keeps saying, oh, you're reusing the same footprint. Yes, for the existing, but you're really extending it 76%, so 3/4 more. It just feels too big for me.
Thank you, Ken. Does anyone else have any other comments or questions, or? Eric McCush.
More just a general question. I know, like, if a commercial property has a variance and hasn't been used for 2 years, they lose their right for their special permit in those situations. If property's been vacant for 2 years, do they lose their right as a 4-family, as a pre-existing non-conforming?
I don't know. I think it does. It's a great question, but I think the residential, I don't know if that's a little different, but I do know if it's an abandoned property, it will expire at some point. But I don't know if it's the same 2 years.
Okay, thank you.
Michelle is watching from home, but, so maybe she will let Linda know. But no, that's a great question, because it's hard to tell. I think it would have to be fully abandoned, that just because it's a 4 and they're renting 2, does that maintain the 4-family status, or does it need to be 4 families? I don't think that's the case. I think as long as someone's in the house and it's not totally abandoned.
Okay. I got the feeling that no one's been living there for a couple of years, just from the neighborhood conversation.
It could be. I don't know that, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? No other comments or questions? I will read the recommendation of the staff. The recommendation of the planning staff is to grant the petition for a special permit, subject to the following conditions. All development shall be as per plan, except as modified by these conditions. Merge parcel 76 Granville Avenue, parcel ID 104712208, and no number Granville Place, parcel ID 104712206, via approval not required subdivision process. File plan with the city for endorsement and record plan at Registry of Deeds. Condition number 3, maximum total number of bedrooms is 9. Condition number 4, install drainage and stormwater management systems on site, subject to approval and reasonable modification of the city engineer. Condition number 5, no additional paving or any yard areas. No additional paving of any yard areas. Maintain all yard areas landscaped with grass lawn, shrubbery, and trees as per plan. Condition 6, all retaining walls shall comply with the maximum height requirement of the zoning ordinance or must seek and obtain a variance. 7 is any ledge removal by any means, excluding utilities, shall require a special permit per the zoning ordinance. That's what was recommended by the planning staff before the hearing. It's the planning report and recommendation is part of the hearing record. That's what we're working with at the moment. If people do make a motion to proceed forward, I think we should add in repaving Granville Place as a condition also. But that's if people are, if someone's in favor of making a motion. At the moment, I am finding it hard to support this petition in its current form and with the current proposal. Ken Antonucci.
I just have a question regarding Granville Place, and I just don't remember. I went out there, and I just didn't, my memory didn't record it. There are no sidewalks there, right? It's basically just like one of the speakers said, it's essentially a large driveway. And I can't remember, are there curbs? Or it's just paving, it's like a driveway with grass on either side, okay? No grass. Well, yes, no curbs, yeah. Okay, thank you.
You all set, Ken? Yes. Okay, any other questions, or does anyone want to make a motion? Is there a motion that anyone wants to make on this petition? Pat Hayes.
I'd like to make a motion that we allow the petitioner to withdraw without prejudice to reconsider the size of the development.
Okay. Let's see if the counselor is open to that. Is your petitioner, is your client willing to do that?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Hayes, for that. I think that's a very reasonable approach to our, I'll call it our dilemma, it's not your dilemma. But we've heard that the addition is rather large, and I think we can sharpen our pencil and go back and see if we can make it better for the neighborhood, make it, and still make it economically feasible for us.
Okay, so that's something you're willing. Okay, thank you. Pat's made a motion that we allow the petitioner to withdraw without prejudice. Ken Antonucci.
I'll second that motion.
Ken Antonucci seconds it. And give me a second and I will try to not miss Member McCush again this time. Okay, all set, Ken? Ken Antonucci.
Yes.
Diane Chuha.
Yes.
Tawadej Gabriselassie.
Yes.
Risa Gray.
Yes.
Eric McCush.
Yes.
I missed each. Patrick Hayes.
Yes.
Eric Henry.
Yes. Yes.
Eric Susi, Henry Susi.
Yes.
Thank you. And, oh, and my vote is yes, allowed to withdraw without prejudice. So that motion to allow the petitioner to withdraw the petition without prejudice in order to go back and rework the proposal has been voted unanimously 9-0.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for coming out and speaking. What's that? No, they'll have to re-petition, so it'll be a brand new one. Yeah. The next item on the agenda will be an update from the Office of Strategic Planning and Community Development regarding tree planting. So we'll give folks a moment to get settled, and then if either Emily Granoff or Chris Rosa are in the attendance, we would love to hear from you shortly.
You have us both?
Ah. Okay, give me one. 18 p.m. That's still going, that's still going. Okay, so right now we're going to entertain the next item on the agenda, which is, no, it's okay. It's not on there. Okay, but this is basically, we've been requested to approve a plan for a grant. It's a greening in the Gateway Cities Implementation Grant Program. And they require the planning board to approve their proposal. And with us today is, from the Office of Strategic Planning and Community Development, is Emily Granoff, who's a grant writer, and Chris Rosa, who is tree warden and cemetery director. So if you could just introduce yourselves for the record as you speak, and then we can move from there.
Yes, my name is Emily Granoff. I'm the City of Malden's grant writer in the Office of Strategic Planning and Community Development. And as you just said, we are here to fulfill the requirements of a Department of Conservation and Recreation grant opportunity, which requires, as part of our application, for up to $100,000 in funds to plant trees on public streets, sidewalks, and parks. And do tree planting related activities like digging tree pits, teaching residents how to care for newly planted trees, potentially getting equipment that we need to care for newly planted trees, especially in the first few years of their life. One of the requirements for this grant is that we create a planting plan outlining where we want to plant the trees and bring it before the planning board. So that is why we are here tonight. I believe that you have a packet that I put together for Michelle showing both a set of highlighted streets where we intend to prioritize for planting the trees that would be funded by this grant. Also in that packet are maps of environmental justice communities in Malden, heat island impacts in Malden, and the current DCR planting zone in the city of Malden. The DCR planting zone is where a DCR tree warden is working to plant about 2,000 trees over the next 2 years.
2,500 trees over the next 2.5 years.
So the state is taking a really deep interest in the area outlined in that zone. So we have, for the most part, left it out of our planting plan, despite that area experiencing the most severe urban heat island impacts, because we don't want to be doubling up when there's, a whole city that we want to be planting trees in.
This is basically extra money for us to plant in zones that the DCR won't get to or can't cover. So that's why we've highlighted certain streets that still qualify as environmental justice areas, and we've also added the Forestdale Cemetery in there too. I currently have about 40 dead trees, and we're looking to turn the cemetery into an arboretum, more of a place that people can visit. So that's why that area is in there too.
And that would be part of this grant, this greening the Gateway city's implementation?
So the greening of
Or
the
is that
gateways
separate?
is run by the DCR. It's 2,500 trees approximately over the next 2.5 years. This is a supplemental grant that we can use to plant areas that they are not going to get to. Forestdale Cemetery is one of those areas. Those areas down in Ward 2 near Medford Street, Oakland, those streets there, those are not in their planting zone, but it is a high heat index area and is an environmental justice zone.
Right, so that's what this 100,000's for, is those areas that are not under DCR.
Exactly.
Correct.
Okay.
The planting plan in front of you outlines more places we want to plant trees than could probably be covered by $100,000. DCR asks us to take a broader look at where we want to put trees in this planting plan than just for this specific grant project. I expect that the majority of money from this grant would go to the areas in Ward 2, but we do want Forestdale Cemetery on there because of the long-term plan to create an arboretum, which is not a resource that this area really has. And if there were an opportunity to sort of seed that, if you will excuse the pun, with this grant, we would want to take that opportunity.
And what we're voting on, see, this is the first time we've ever had to do this. So this isn't something that normally comes before us. So we're not even sure why it's coming before us, what zoning or special permit granting this is satisfying. So that's why I just want to make sure that, other than the fact that the grant says it has to go to planning board, we don't know what jurisdiction we might have over it. So the one question I did have, and I was talking with Michelle the other day about this, is I see the list that you provided of the streets. Is that specific enough detail to satisfy the $100,000 grant that's coming up that's due soon? Will that satisfy? Is that enough detail, or do we have to say at 219 Medford Street there's one tree, at 231 Medford Street there's going to be something else, or do we have to get at that level of detail, or can it be this broad in general
You do not need to approve like specific locations for trees. The plan accepts, highlighting streets and public areas and public ways where we want to plant trees. I also would just add one thing on the issue of why this plan comes before you, and that is from a little more digging and conversation with DCR, it sounds like in a lot of communities, people prioritize parks and open spaces as places to put these trees funded by this implementation grant. And DCR created this requirement that plans go before the planning board as part of a way to ensure that it was part of a citywide strategy or conversation that DCR wasn't going to pay to put trees in a park that the planning board would later approve some substantial change to. Or it wasn't going to pay to put trees around a school that the planning board was saying, we should put a blue bike station there. I will admit I don't understand all of the intricacies of what comes before you, but DCR felt that making sure that we were having this conversation would be a good thing for the long-term life of the tree.
Okay, yeah, so in 5 years, we're not tearing it, trying to cut it down.
Exactly.
because-
They want to make sure that these trees contribute to the urban canopy for decades and not just a few years, which is a goal we share.
No, I certainly am in favor of it in principle and hopefully in practice that we get some money and can actually do it. More of my concern was, as I was reading through the material, I wasn't sure that this high level of a description would have been adequate to satisfy the grant writers and the granting authority. And where we are butting up against it, this thing's due in, by the end of the month, right?
February 24th.
Yeah, so in a couple of weeks this is due. I just want to make sure that we're able to address it and hopefully give you what you need, and that what we do give you is going to be useful in you securing the monies.
Absolutely, and I will say our ability to put this plan before you, it does not look quite how we hope it will when we submit it to DCR, because with the city servers down and no Wi-Fi, we were not able to access ArcGIS systems to make one map that had all three of these things on it, which is why you have three different maps that you kind of have to compare visually. There are also layers of data in ArcGIS that we would hope to add to the eventual planting plan that we just didn't have access to. So our hope is that by putting, this is what the plan is going to be, that is the places that we would like to plant trees. It may end up looking graphically different when we send it to DCR, just in the interest of it being visually easier to see that, how we're prioritizing what streets we're planting trees on, and, seeing the scope of environmental justice communities in Malden, that kind of thing. But the content will be the same.
Okay, terrific. Does anyone have any questions for Emily or Chris? Ken Antonucci.
Of course I do. I just wanted to clarify, the Greening of the Gateway Cities program, so you said that's for areas not under DCR, but meaning a DCR can control properties, or DCR initiatives?
Okay, so I'll take a first crack at it. Distinction here between the Greening the Gateway Cities program, which is DCR run, and it's that program to plant 2,500 trees, and it's run by a DCR forester. The grant we're talking about here is a Greening the Gateway Cities implementation grant, which is an additional $100,000 that we can get to supplement DCR's work in another area of the city. The Greening the Gateway Cities program, the really big one, that does not control public or private property. What they do is, if the tree is going to be planted on private property in a front yard or a backyard, they have the homeowner sign an agreement to take care of the tree for 2 years, which is the most vulnerable time in a tree's life, is that first 2 years after it's planted. They don't need to pull permits to plant trees on sidewalks, as we don't, require that of the city, so we're not going to require it of DCR.
So DCR can actually go around and just I guess, say I wanted a tree in my yard or my sidewalk, I could get DCR to do that?
Do you live in that zone that's circled in yellow on the last map in the packet?
That's what I wasn't sure of. I mean, this is.
If you live in that zone, that
This
experience
is
is the
limited.
most.
So it is limited to those zones.
Okay.
Okay.
So right
Well,
now, Green of the Gateways, their initial grant or opportunity that they've given us is 2,500 trees over the next 2.5 to 3 years. Right now, it's about 80% private and 20% public. So if you live in a home, you want a tree in your front yard, your backyard, they'll give you a list of 40 different trees, and they'll plant as many trees as you like. As far as the public side of that, in the sidewalks, DCR communicates with me. We mark out locations for underground utilities, overhead wires, and then we'll dig safe those locations. We'll assist them in cutting the sidewalk pits, but then they will do the final planting. So the DCI just can't come in and throw a tree on a sidewalk without consulting with the tree warden first.
Okay, and thank you. And what you say about that yellow area, is this the one you?
No, that is the map of environmental justice
That's the
communities in
environmental
Malden.
justice one.
There's another map where Malden is mostly gray, and then there's a yellow line.
So the DCR planting zone, it's more defined on the map, but basically it's going down Salem Street.
Nope, that is the planting plan. Would it be okay if I came over and?
Yeah, please. Trying to figure out which.
Their zone is basically Salem Street and south towards that
areas are we
is most of the DCR planting zone. Anything north of Salem Street, we're getting towards 3, 5, and 6. Those are heavily treed areas, so those
Okay,
don't
all right,
fall
so it's within this outline area. Sure, well, I'm only asking because this is fantastic. And then, so that kind of leads me back to my other question was, so the streets that you actually have listed, it's gonna be limited to those streets, or can it, including but not limiting to those streets? I mean, it's basically, this is the list of the streets inside that yellow outline.
Not quite.
So the streets that we listed do not fall within their planting zone, but they're still streets in need of trees. And that's what this $100,000 implementation grant is for. So we can plant in areas that they are not able to.
Okay.
All the list we gave you, it's our wish list.
But that's the list of streets. That's.
Yes.
The list of streets are the streets highlighted on that.
On the 11 by 17 drawing?
Yes.
Yes, okay, all right, the bigger one. Okay.
And those are the
Yep.
list of streets we would prioritize to plant trees on with this potential $100,000 grant.
Excellent. then
And in
there's-
case anyone watching this is listening, and if you do live in the Green of the Gateway Cities zone, you can reach out to Chris or the DCR warden about getting a tree planted on your property.
Yeah, and there's a great variety of trees too, so it's
Yes,
like
they
you
have a
said, is the right tree for the right place. That's
Just under
great.
50 trees in their list, and I have about 60 on mine.
Which is what we submitted.
You all set? There's other people.
Thank you.
Quick question, how many trees does $100,000 buy? Is that about 200 trees?
Roughly, it depends on size, species, things like that. A tree can be a 2 to 2.5 inch caliber tree, which is the size we typically like to use. Like I said, depending on the species, can be anywhere from $260 to $460 a tree. Oaks, maples are more expensive than smaller flowering trees, which we try to put on the power lines.
Yeah, okay.
The goal is to not plant any trees that will have to be cut down in a few years.
No, I was just curious what we were gonna get for that $100,000, how many? Okay, Eric Henry.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, point of order, and welcome to your capacity with the city, Mr. Rosa. I don't remember hearing him mention name and address for the record. If there's a point of order there.
Sure. My name is Christopher Rosa. I'm the Superintendent of Cemeteries and Tree Warden for the City of Malden. And I reside at 152 Forest Street at the Forestdale Cemetery.
Thank you, sir.
I live at 50 Concord Street, apartment 7.
Thank you.
Just, you do mention something that, so, and that's the maintenance of these trees. If it's, if this money is used to plant trees on private ways, on private property, who has onus for maintaining these trees, if they're in the power lines or you know?
So the grant, the implementation grant that we are applying for, that we put before you, will contain no private property trees. Those will all be public sidewalks. The DCR's greening of the gateway will encompass the private property trees, which will be taken care of by the DCR and by the homeowners. But our
All the streets highlighted on that list, those are public ways where the city would plant trees and the city would take care of the trees because it is city property.
Okay. And lastly, you mentioned something about having some 40-yard mature trees in your backyard in the cemetery that are needing of attention there. So
several.
How is any of this that is before us today go to look to replace that stock?
Yeah, so the list that we gave you is a wish list. We would obviously take care of the public streets first that we consider in the greatest need. If we did have money left over, we would plant some of those trees at the Forestdale Cemetery, Bell Rock Cemetery, and Salem Street Cemetery.
This is also a grant opportunity that comes up, or has under previous administrations come up annually. So the plan we put before you, we wouldn't be able to cover the entire thing in 1 year, but we made it more broad than we could cover in a single project so that so that we can work over a period of years to implement this plan.
Thank you, and best of luck to further grant writing and things.
Thank you, Eric. Risa Gray.
Roughly how many trees does this plan illustrate in yellow?
So,
roughly.
Do you have any idea to estimate that?
Yellow. Which
The planting plan that we highlighted streets on, like how many, I don't know how many tree pits are on those streets.
Yeah, so that is yet to be determined, so we're trying to process the paperwork now. Once the planning board signs off, then I will go out and visit all those streets, dig safe all those streets, and determine exactly how many trees on each street that I can plant. I don't know what's there for utilities, gas, water, fiber optics, until I dig safe them all. One of those streets may only get 3 trees, the other may get 30. It really depends what's underground.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You all set, Risa?
All set, thank you.
Yeah,
Ken?
I promise, just 2 quick ones. First, so this doesn't cover, this is just installation and anything associated with that. Maintenance would be just out of the city's normal budget.
So we're actually working on pursuing some additional funding opportunities for equipment that would help us to care for young trees. We have a state earmark that's already been secured for $100,000 that we're working to use to purchase a truck for watering new trees and spraying them down with any insecticides or bark spray that are needed.
Yeah, because like you said, a new tree does require, nurturing. And, I was just involved in a few projects where we had a whole extensive landscaping and had a horticulturist attached to the project and everything. So would this maintenance and everything be done by DPW staff?
Yeah, so before I moved to my cemetery position, I was the assistant director at the DPW, and I was in charge of new tree plantings and care, and that's where it will remain right now under my supervision.
Okay, great. And then gateway cities. Do you define that? Sorry.
Yeah,
Is it
so
gateway to
gateway
Boston?
cities, not quite. It's a term for formerly industrial communities, specifically in Massachusetts. Other states don't really have or use that term. A lot of cities around Boston are considered gateway cities, so as Chelsea, Everett, but also Springfield is a gateway city. And
Probably Lowell, Lawrence.
Yeah,
left
the
the
idea
way.
is gateways to opportunity for a lot of immigrant communities who immigrated to the United States and first landed in Massachusetts and engaged in these manufacturing and industrial jobs.
Thank you, that's very helpful.
You all set, Ken? Anyone else have any questions? Is there a motion to approve the planting plan? Ken Antonucci.
I'll make a motion to approve the planning plan.
Is there a second? Eric McCush.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let the record reflect that there was no one in opposition and it was unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming and working with us and getting this, and good luck with the program.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good evening. Okay, next item on the agenda, update from the Community Preservation Committee. Let me get Mr. Eric. There you go, Eric.
Thank you once again, Mr. Chair. No, actually, probably one of the best updates is kind of segue onto what we just was discussing here. We're getting a lot of grants and opportunities, money, revenue flowing to the city to try to make improvements in them before the Community Preservation Committee. One thing that generally comes up kind of regularly with regards to the maintenance and upkeep of these new parks and things is that once we build it, who's going to maintain it? And that seems to be a kind of open question as to really getting, we're sinking millions and millions of dollars worth of revenue into these projects to beautify the city. And, when my children become, of age and voting age and are the mayors of the city, they're gonna look back at us, why did you guys not do something different? So, said all that to say is that we have our meeting again next week. We're putting a lot of resources in trying to get these projects through. There's a lot of good projects, but we're still having some concerns on the board as to who's ultimately going to maintain these efforts. And with that, unless there are any further questions, I'll yield.
Eric McCush.
Just one quick question. How much money does the CPC have in its bank right now?
CPC revenue is divided into three basic categories, one of them being affordable housing. A lot of it is land and land acquisition is another one, and parks and recreations in general terms is the third. And I think in the coffers right now, it's probably a little bit north of round numbers, $1 million, which won't get you much especially as it relates to affordable housing and things of this nature. So, that is one area that they're also looking at. We're trying to, working with the Office of Strategic Planning and Community Development, and also Affordable Housing Trust that is there coming online in order to see what kind of projects that may be in the offering to help alleviate, address some of our housing needs as well, and beautify our parks.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, Eric. Appreciate the updates each month. Very helpful. I believe our next meeting will be Wednesday, March 8th, 2023. So with that, if no one else has anything, is there a motion to adjourn?
Oh, my favorite. I'll make that motion.
Second? Ken Antonucci. And then all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. 9:46 p.m. And if they're still recording, Michelle, wish you a speedy recovery. Thank you very much. And Linda, thank you for all your help. And everyone, thank you for your patience this evening with me juggling a bunch of different things. Have a good